The title of this second plenary session is Role of International Role different countries can play for peaceful reunification of Korean Peninsula. It is about almost 4:20 now, and we have up to 5:30. Please take a seat. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Our session is beginning. Thank you. Please take your seats.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, this is yours. This is yours.
This one's mine.
Yeah. We have 5 distinguished speakers, scholars, from 5 different countries. Dr. Atsushi Ijuin from Japan, Dr. Alexander Zebin from Russia, Dr. Guansheng Zhao from China, presently at American University here, and Reverend Kenneth Bae from God's country, Mr. Inteck from Korea. 5 countries represent, not exhaustive. We don't have some countries here, but pretty representative. I'd like to pose for the panel this question. We talked about the vision for United Korea. That is free, democratic, rule of law, market economy, and human rights respecting society. Such a society, if we can somehow through cooperation bring it about, that United Korea will be threat to nobody, will be beneficial to everybody. That's we firmly believe. I think it will be in the interest of Japan. I think it is in the interest of Russia. It's in the interest of China to see this United Korea to emerge. We will not find such an answer if we keep looking back. I think we have to look forward and say, what kind of Korean Peninsula do we want? Not just what Koreans want. What kind of Korean Peninsula does Japan want? Does China want? And then try to form a relationship. This is a good relationship China wants to have with that United Korea. And to accomplish that, this is what China can do. This is what Japan can do. Those are what we want to hear. So we will have we have how much time? I don't know. We will give each panelist 10 minutes. We'll take 50 minutes. That will bring us to 10 after 5. It will give us 20 minutes of questions and answers. Please take a piece of paper, and when they make a presentation, identify the speaker and write down your questions. At the conclusion of it, you will come forward and line up here, because we don't have a floor microphone. So you have to come forward, and your order will be by first come, first served basis. And if you'd rather not come forward, but submit a question in writing, please do so as well. Thank you. So first speaker is Dr. Ijuin, Dr. Atsushi Ijuin. He is, I wrote down, but let me look here. He's a Japan Center for Economic Research, and he's a leading researcher, scholar, and he has been paying attention to Korean Peninsula issues for many years and has been frequent visitors to Korea, North Korea, Mongolia, and a few more. So Dr. Ijuin will be coming to the podium.
Thanks, Dr. Jai-poong Liu, for introduction. My name is Atsushi Ijuin. Today, I would like to talk to you about my idea, how Japan can prepare for Korean unification. The subject of this session is international roles and Korean unification. However, to tell the truth, in Japan, there is little interest in the question of Korean unification, and it is not even a specific foreign policy concern at the political level. Over the last few years, concern among the Japanese public regarding the Korean Peninsula has focused on North Korea's nuclear and missile development and abduction of Japanese nationals, not on Korean unification. But I personally think that, as far as Japan is concerned, the question of Korean unification is certainly not somebody else's problem. This is because the timing and the format of Korean unification will directly affect Japan's national interests. As the Northeast Asian situation becomes increasingly fluid, one cannot entirely discount the possibility that the situation will evolve, whether Japan likes it or not. The best scenario for Japan would likely be for the Kim Jong-un regime to resolve to abandon its nuclear program and follow a path toward reform and greater openness. Inter-Korean relations would improve, leading to an expansion in exchange and cooperation. Following a period of peaceful coexistence between North and South, as a structure for peace is established, the two Koreas would, by mutual agreement, follow the path to unification based on respect for freedom, democracy, and the market economy. North Korea's diplomatic relations with Japan and the US would be normalized during this process, leading to warmer relationship between them. In this scenario, these developments would have a synergistic effect, leading to Japan developing closer relations with both Koreas and building a good relationship with the Korean Peninsula following a peaceful unification. The least desirable scenario would be one in which North Korea pushed forward with its nuclear and missile development and headed down the path toward economic collapse. North Korea would ignore voice of international society and become increasingly isolated. Having lost any room for maneuver both at home and on the diplomatic stage, the Kim Jong-un regime would engage in extreme behavior in an effort to survive. Risky actions would have the potential to trigger another war on the Korean Peninsula, and the possibility of an internal coup d'etat in North Korea could not be entirely discounted. I introduced discussions in Japan about Korean unification in my paper. Some are affirmative in Korean unification, and some are negative. There are also those who take cautious views on Korean unification. Quite a few people in Japan feel nebulous sense of alarm about the prospect of a nation with a population of 75 million springing up right next door. There are also concerns that the post-unification state might be more favorable, inclined towards China than to Japan or the US. Would a unified Korea maintain South Korea's military alliance with the US or dissolve it? what kind of relationship would it build with China? Quite a few commentators expressed anxiety about the possibility that Japan's security environment might deteriorate if the Korean unification process and the post-unification stages, foreign and security policies destroy the power balance between major states in East Asia. Such anxiety and worry should be swept off before unification in Korean Peninsula. I think that denuclearization in Korean Peninsula is the most important. A unified Korea must achieve denuclearization before unification and aspire to be a non-nuclear state after unification. Achieving denuclearization prior to unification and adopting a clear stance that post-unification Korea would continue to be a non-nuclear country seems to be a prerequisite. Japan's colonial rule of the Korean Peninsula came to an end with its defeat in World War II. Most of Japanese people think that Japan is not in a position to play a leading role in Korean unification. However, there are those who take the view that Japan's importance should not be underestimated, both in terms of the role of US military bases in Japan in any military operation preceding unification and in providing extensive economic support before and after unification. Today, with tensions rising on the Korean Peninsula, the most pressing issue is finding a solution to the North Korean nuclear and missile issue to ensure the peace and stability of the region. This problem is expected to take considerable time to resolve peacefully. What is needed is the creation of an effective scenario for the solution of the North Korean WMD issues and the achievement of regional peace and stability. Among the dialogue aimed at creating scenario in which the major countries concerned can work together. Korean unification would be a continuation of that process. If South Korea aims to achieve unification, dialogue with its partner, North Korea, is essential. South Korean initiatives will only proceed smoothly if carried out with the cooperation and support of Japan and the United States. With its shared key ideas, political and economic systems, and fundamental principles. The cooperation and support of China and Russia will also likely be required. In addition to North-South talks, a variety of other frameworks are likely, including US-South Korea, Japan-South Korea, Japan-US, Japan-US, South Korea, and Japan-US, China, South Korea, Russia, and so on. Moreover, Mongolia, which has diplomatic relations with all major countries, including North Korea, has indicated its willingness to provide a venue for talk among the countries of Northeast Asia. To encourage a candid discussion aimed at peace and stability of the region, dialogue between the countries concerned should be undertaken not only at the track 1 level, but also at a variety of other levels, including track 1.5 and 2. North and South and major countries, including Japan, should be actively involved in this dialogue with an eye to the future. Thank you very much for kind attention.
Next presenter is Dr. Alexander Zebin. In Russia, the very friendly way of calling him Sasha Zebin. He is the director of Korean Studies in Russian Moscow Center for Center for Korean Studies of what organization? Academy of Moscow Academy of Sciences. Okay, thank you.
First of all, I would like to express my sincere thanks to our American and Korean organizers of this forum. It's a great honor and a pleasure for me to speak before people who spent their life devoting to the noble case of Korean unification. Russia welcomed all moves by two Korean states aimed at relaxation of tension and promoted inter-Korean cooperation because of two major considerations. Firstly, Moscow hopes that inter-Korean reconciliation will remove a threat of military conflict right next to our eastern border. And secondly, promote more favorable conditions for development of Russia bilateral economic ties with two Korean states, as well as implementation of multilateral economic projects with Russia participation in Northeast Asia. There are expectations that in the future, unified Korea will be a country capable to maintain relations of friendship, good neighborhood, and cooperation with Russia. Russia's firm conviction is that there is no alternative to the inter-Korean dialogue and cooperation. Moscow never failed to confirm that, I quote, Russia supports the policy of developing dialogue between the two Korean states and bringing them closer together, and that Russia has always aspired to and today expresses its unequivocal support for dialogue and rapprochement between two Korean states and maintaining a denuclearized Korean peninsula. Improvement of relations between North Korea and South Korea, along with providing with more favorable conditions for development of trade and economic cooperation between Russia and both parts of Korea, undoubtedly would open new opportunities for economic development of Russian Far East and for linking its economy to integration process in Asia-Pacific region. Besides being economically advantageous, such interaction is highly likely to contribute to confidence building between South and North Korea. Russia believes that trilateral cooperation will not only be economically advantageous, but will also increase trust on the Korean peninsula. President Putin confirmed this stance in his interview with KBS given before his official visit to Republic of Korea in November 2013. I quote, "We definitely support the aspiration of Koreans for national unification. It is a natural process. However, it should be exclusively peaceful and take into account the interests of the North as well as of the South," he said. I'd like to repeat that we will support an exclusively peaceful process. We will support exclusively those means which would lead to a positive outcome instead of conflicts, tragedies, and destruction. So both on security and economic reasons, Russia is vitally interested in a peace, reconciliation, and unification on Korea. This conclusion seems especially important in view of continuing attempts by some experts to convince public opinion that none of the neighboring countries, including Russia, is interested in Korea unification. Few words about the Russian position on nuclear problem. Moscow is convinced that the only removal of mutual concerns of all parties involved in the six-party talks on the basis of broad compromise will make it possible to achieve the goal of the national community with regard to the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Russia's firm stand is to achieve this aim through political diplomatic means only. Firstly, any war on Russian borders, to say nothing of the one with high possibility of using of weapon of mass destruction, will be a direct threat to Russia's security. The security of Russia's Far East region directly depends on how events in Korea will evolve. In case of the armed conflict on the peninsula, the radioactive clouds from the dozens of South Korean Chernobyls, because many of 25 South Korean atomic power plants could be destroyed by North Korea, not with nuclear, but just with conventional weapons only. And streams of refugees would not reach United States Pacific coast, but they would certainly reach Russia and China territory. Secondly, in case of armed conflict in Korea, Moscow could hardly expect implementation of multilateral energy infrastructure and transportation projects in this region, with which Russia links social and economic development of her Far Eastern region. Russia believes that dialogue with North Korea must be resumed. Attempts to intimidate the country must be stopped, and the way to settle these matters peacefully must be found. And if this is possible, Russia believes so, especially considering the positive experience of such dialogue with North Korea in the past. Regretfully, the negotiating parties failed to master the patience to translate this intention into reality. Russia thinks that sanctions of any kind are useless and ineffective in this case, since, according to Mr. Putin, the North Koreans, I quote, will eat grass, but they will not abandon this program unless they feel safe. In this environment, in this situation, whipping up military hysteria is absolutely pointless. It is a dead end, the Russian president warned, adding that it may lead to global planet-wide disaster and enormous casualties. Moscow strongly believes that diplomacy is the only way to solve the North Korean nuclear problem. The more so that North Korea public statements and secret contacts with United States representatives confirmed that Pyongyang priority remains finding a certain compromise with United States as the only way to remove a lesson, an external threat, lift sanctions, albeit partially, and to get access to foreign investments and markets. Few words on a future vision for United Korea. History of Korean settlement for the last 25 years, including time and again encountered difficulties in solving the nuclear issue on the Korean Peninsula, makes us to conclude that without a solution of certain fundamental problem directly related to the region's future security architecture as a whole, we will continue unnecessary stumble on a minor problems Thank you. Directly related to the region's future security architecture as a whole, and will continue incessantly, and will not be capable to tackle them. The fundamental key issue which any future peace process in Northeast Asia should to resolve is defining an acceptable for all four big countries, China, Russia, United States, and Japan, place for a reunified Korea in the future regional security system. Short of such vision, each and every participant of the future peace system will remain very suspicious about other plans and motives. Many politicians and experts in United States, Republic of Korea, and Japan have already included that future reunified Korea will be a member of tripartite military alliance of United States, Japan, Korea, in which Australia has been already linked. However, such plans are unlikely to be welcome in Moscow and Beijing. Both countries are likely to perceive such triangle as a deterrent against Russia and China. Calculations to the effect that future unified Korea will be de facto forward base of maritime powers, United States and Japan, against continental China and Russia can hamper is already hindering both establishment of reliable and sustainable peace mechanism in Northeast Asia and solution of nuclear problem and reunification of Korea. Russia, China, United States, and Japan should develop common vision of future united Korea based on not zero-sum approach, but on a win-win strategy for all, a strategy which provides for an opportunity for effective cooperation and joint actions in regard to Korean issue. Thank you.
You have heard from Japan and Russia. Now, next speaker is Dr. Kwansheng Zhao. He directs the Center for Asian Studies at American University here in Washington.
Let me first thank you for organizing such a successful conference. And I would like to say welcome our friends from Korea and colleagues here. I have prepared a PowerPoint for more than 20 pages, but I was told we have limited time, so I'm not going to use PowerPoint presentation, but rather I will hit the point. And later we can have the more detailed discussion. China's position with Korean unification and also North Korea nuclear, I would say that with North Korea nuclear issue, officially it's pretty clear. If we use Chinese word, only 6 words, that is 无核, 和平, 对话, meaning nuclear-free Korea Peninsula, 无核. And secondly, 和平, that is stability and peace, is very critical. And thirdly, 对话, that is to settle this issue, you have to go through diplomatic and dialogue rather than military confrontation. I guess that is, if we call it, it's a official stance. But I'm going to later talk more detail about internal debate within Chinese politics and society, particularly intellectual and policymaking elites, and also talk about recent measures, what Beijing has been doing, particularly with North Korea nuclear issue. Let me just start with the idea of Korea unification issue. I guess it's widely believed, my understanding in China, this is pretty much domestic internal factors would be a key to solve this issue, just like what happened in Germany, East Germany, West Germany. No matter external powers like it or not, if the time is coming, if conditions are ready, then the two societies, the two countries will merge together. Having said that, still, external powers, if we look at Korea history and the history of East Asia, particularly ever since Treaty of Shimonoseki of 1895, then Korea actually extensively affected and influenced by external powers. And today, the two key players externally, China and the United States. So that's very clear. At the same time, like my colleagues here already mentioned, Russia and Japan also very important. The EU, of course, would like to play a role as well. So the question here is not that whether the external powers like it or not. Again, it's really the two societies, two Koreans, whether they have a conditions mature or not. The external institution, that's another question. Whether it's necessary to have mechanisms like six-party talks. That's a huge question. That would combine the factors internally and externally. So I leave that question open. Let me just make quickly about how China's recent movement. If theoretically or academically, when we try to understand Chinese position, I use three perspectives. One I called history embedded approach, and the second, national interest driven approach, and the third, co-management approach. So it's an evolution of a Chinese foreign policy toward Korea from history, national interest, and co-management. Every topic I can talk 10, 20 minutes, but I will stop here. I will move on. So one of the keys, like I mentioned, is the two key players externally, United States and China. Donald Trump and Xi Jinping, they met in Florida for the first time, and the Korea issue is a key. And then last week, they met in Beijing again, and the Korea issue is another issue. Donald Trump tweets a lot, and to start with criticism with China, but then in the end, there are some kind of consensus that Korea issue, nuclear issue, North Korea, must be under control. North Korea actually heavily relying on China. If we look at export, import, here is my number, 85 North Korea export, import from China, 83 export to China. And not to mention other key elements such as energy and food. And on the other hand, North Korea has already 6 nuclear tests and 37 missile tests since 2011. And most recent one is a powerful nuclear test of September. China actually ready to, together with the United States, United Nations Security Council have economic sanctions. Actually, China supported. However, there are some kind of up and downs between China and South Korea, in particular, the issue of THAAD. And actually, China almost ready to have further sanctions, and because of THAAD, and slow down. But recently, last week, President Moon and President Xi met in Vietnam, and it seems like the issue now turned better. Now, let me just make it quickly.
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I will make it quickly about the internal debates. There are what I call internally, there are support North Korea. Should China support North Korea? What we call in Chinese, 保朝派. And another called 弃朝派, whether China should give up North Korea. There are a lot of reasons. I give you two examples. 弃朝派, pretty much Peking University Dean, Dr. Jia Qingguo, and 保朝派, Fudan University, Shanghai, Shen Dingli. So, but China has done a few more things. One is a cut part of oil export to North Korea, starting from last month. And also, North Korea workers were ordered to leave China. I have some pictures here, and they are now on the train. They went back to North Korea. And also stopped banking service to North Korea. That's another issue. But on the other hand, oil, not totally cut. Up to this month, reduced 10% oil. There are two reasons. One, humanitarian consideration, and two, technical. Because if you cut totally the oil from China, then the facilities, the pipeline will not be reused in the future. So there are a complicated reasons for this oil issue. Let me make a concluding. I noticed that my time is up. My conclusion is that now China and United States, my understanding, pretty much on the same page with the big picture, that is nuclear-free Korea Peninsula. But how to do that, there are some technical differences. Thank you.
The next presenter is Reverend Kenneth Bae. He has been recognized as the American who spent the longest period in North Korean prison. And his name has become recently highlighted as a result of this release and eventual death of Otto Warmbier. Reverend Bae.
I'm glad to be here to address these issues about Korean unifications. I believe the theme of the this week is Korean-led unifications. I spent 735 days in North Korea as a prisoner. I was a missionary going into North Korea, brought people to there to primarily for them to see the land, to pray and worship and love the people as Christ loved us. But once they discovered what I was doing, they accused me to overthrow the governments. And I said, how did I try to overthrow the government of North Korea? And this is what they responded. You tried to overthrow the government through prayer and worship. And I say, you don't believe in God. Why do you believe in prayer? And many, later on, they say, if we allow someone like you to coming in and spreading this Christian virus into our countries, and everybody will turn away from the government and their leader, and they will turn to God, and our country will fall. They said, we are not afraid of nuclear arsenal of the United States because they will never use against us first. However, we are afraid having someone like you coming in, spreading the idea from outside, coming in, this will definitely bring us down. And that was the reason why I was sentenced 15 years out of labor. I was sent to the labor camp, and I spent 735 there, and then after I came back. When I came back, I realized that people around the world remember me, and they pray for me, they stood with me. I received more than 450 letters from people around the world and say, we are standing with you, Kenneth. We are praying for you. We are rooting for you to be theirs. I came back, I believe, because of prayer of millions of people around the world prayed for me and stood with me and cared for me. And therefore, when I came back, I felt like I was not forgotten in North Korea. And also, God reminded me that the people in North Korea are not forgotten by Him either. And therefore, I studied something called Nehemiah Global Initiative. And Nehemiah is a character in the Bible that he was in a very powerful position in Babylon next to king. And then when he heard what's happening in his homeland, when they were kept as a captive in Babylon, thinking about the problems and issues in Jerusalem and Judah for the people left behind, and then he started to have compassion for them, and start crying and start praying, start fasting for the people, his people who are left behind. Later on, he went back, and God sent him back and rebuilt the wall, and they restored the Jerusalem and Judea and Israel once again. I do believe there's a parallel what's happening nowadays in North Korea and those days in Israel. Because I believe that next year will mark 70 years since 1948, when Korea was born. And this 70 is a very important year in the Bible. We do believe that no evil governments will last more than 70 some years. Soviet Union collapsed after 73 years. And then if you look at all the history and many issues and problems they had in other countries, all fell apart within this kind of time frame. When I went to Germany, German Christians would say Berlin Wall came down exactly after 40 years. 1989, it came down since their division of two countries. But the one thing I discovered is that people, many nations pray for the people in Germany to be united, and the people in east of Germany to be free. And also there is a German church started a prayer gathering starting from 1982. For 7 years, they met every Monday and pray for the people for Germany. And then later on, that led to 1989 October to bring the wall down. And therefore, what I studied now is we wanted to remember the people in North Korea as the people around the world remember me when I was in a North Korea prison. And therefore, we're studying, it's going to be, you call it Nehemiah Global Prayer Petition Campaign. And we only have millions of people around the world to say, we want to remember the people in North Korea. We want to stand with the people in North Korea. 25 million people. This is what I usually share when I go to the churches and said, you know why we need unification? Because unless there is unification, there's no way they'll hear the name Jesus ever again. Because when I was being questioned in North Korea, and this is what the investigator told me. National Security Bureau investigator asked me, I heard about God before, never heard about Jesus before in my life. So therefore, tell me, where does Jesus live? In China or North Korea? He was very serious. He was born in Pyongyang. And he went to college in Pyongyang. He was in 30-some years old, working for National Security Bureau, and he said, I never heard the name Jesus before. This is the only country on earth totally blocked from rest of the world. Name of the Jesus is not available. Is this the only thing is not available? Freedom is not available. And information is not available. There's no freedom to go, no freedom to speak, no freedom to share their opinions. So this is not even a Christian matter. Unification can only guarantee the liberty of 25 million people living like a slave right now. And then their human right, and so it's more of a human issue rather than anything else. For 25 million people living under such difficulties, they're enduring. But the rest of the world look the other way and say, as long as there's a peace, we're okay with that. I don't think that's a good message to them and say, as long as you give out nuclear weapon, we will let you continue to live in the way you're supposed to live. And therefore, our message need to be very clear. We are for unification. Unification alone can guarantee the securities in the United States, security in China, in Japan, and Russia, and South and North Korea alone. And therefore, we need to seek unification, and they need to do it together. And I do believe that now, in order to have unification, last time I shared here in Capitol Hill is that first, you need to win the heart of the people in North Korea. Doesn't matter what we do diplomatically, doesn't matter what we do politically, but if we do not win the heart of the people in North Korea, if they're not part of this unification effort, how are we going to live together afterwards? How are we going to be able to have a unified country afterwards? We talk about Korean-led unifications, but how will you embrace the people in North Korea and they will feel like they're part of this unification, they're part of this saying. When I was in court, they asked me, do you have any last thing you want to say? And this is what I made a statement like that and said, the reason why I'm standing in this court is because of my faith, because I'm a Christian, I'm here as a missionary, but later on, someday, we have to live in the unified country together. But if I'm being tested and try for as my own faith, how are we going to live with the people, unified country, people in South Korea? I mentioned to them, there are 50,000 churches in South Korea, 12 million Christians, 10 million Buddhists. How are we going to live together with different ideology, different religions, living in one country together? And then I mentioned to them, even President Kim Il-sung once said it in his memoir, and said, regardless what religion, what background, what people coming from, as long as they're for unification, as long as they're for prosperity of the Korean people, I'm willing to work with anyone who's come from other places. And I told them, I am for unification. I am for the prosperity of all Korean people, Korean Peninsula. So use me to be the bridge rather than put me in the prison. But yet, they did put me in the prison. But I realized this. People in North Korea are seeking for unification, but they do not know how. They do not have a support from outside. So it's very important that we need to say, we care for you. How are they going to, if they realize the people around the world globally and say, we are standing with you, we are praying for you, we are remembering you, we are concerned for your suffering about human rights issues and different violations they're going through. If there's a way for them to know through the radio, different media, whatever the information can go in, we can win the heart of the people in North Korea. And they will know the people out there concerned and care for the people. I think the second thing we also need to win the not only heart, but will of the people from the countries around Korean Peninsula. We talked about, we have a Japanese view, and Chinese view, Russian view, and American views. But more importantly, what I wanted to emphasize is that if we want to have any solution on this particular nuclear crisis we have is, I think the simple question is, would you rather want to live with nuclear power North Korea as your neighbor, or would you like to support this peaceful unification model we're trying to do. It has to be civil society-led, community-led, and citizen-led, because government need to do, but yet at the same time, society as general, civil society has to be from the community up. I do believe that there's the same case for people living in North Korea. If they have information and they have the support from the global community and say, we are for you, and therefore one of the messages I would like to give to our American colleagues here is that U.S. governments need to make sure to show that they are for the people of North Korea, not against them. And therefore, government and people need to be separated. And therefore, if they can, what are the ways that they can support that we are supporting you, we are for your welfare? And there will be one way to do it is accept more refugees, North Korean refugees, allow them to coming into the United States, and then support them. And that act alone can show that the United States is not against the people of North Korea, common people, and they're here to support and embrace them. So it's the idea behind it is, can we, a global community, including the United States, can say, we are here to embrace the people of North Korea. We are here for the people of North Korea. Then alone, I think that it will open the door of the people's heart in North Korea, and also open the door of many people who are rooting for the unification in South Korea as well. So I just wanted to say, as a conclusion said, now is time for every and all people, a global community, need to stand together and not look the other way about the sufferings going on. And also, pretty much the solution need to be the unification. If you have a unification, we'll have a peace and security. With all the human difficulties that it was enduring in North Korea will be solved. I do believe that 2018 is 70 years, and it will be the year where start or opening of the process of unification will take place. I do believe that days will be coming soon. So I would like to ask any of you to remember, you can even do this tonight, pray for nk.org, pray number 4 nk.org. This is a website you can go and sign your name, petitioning to God and say, we will stand, we'll remember, we'll pray for the people of North Korea and unification, so that as a civil society, we're going to come together, body of the world, global community, to say, yes, we are for unification. Thank you.
I have one short announcement and a request to make. Announcement is the presentations that you've been hearing and will hear will be available online in both print and in video form. It's globalpeace.org. So you will have a chance to complete, viewing the entire presentation. My request is I ask you to remember the 3-letter words. It's AKU. It's Action for Korea United, the largest single mover of civil society toward One Korea project. And AKU has been a partner with OKF, One Korea Foundation. We worked together and we traveled with the defectors to Gyeongju. We started a One Dream, One Korea song together. And in August of 2015, we debuted the song in front of Lincoln Memorial. And we had a final, sort of blowout at the Sangam World Cup Stadium with the 40,000 kids shouting, One Korea. And then last March in Manila, same thing happened, about 15,000 people. I'm very happy to introduce my friend, Inteck, who co-chairs the AKU.
Good afternoon. What time is it now in Korea? 7, right? The time to wake up. Yes. It's really an honor to stand in this podium. Actually, this is really my memorable day in the future because I speak in the U.S. Senate building. So how awesome this is. Maybe I should have brought my mom and dad here to see me speaking in this podium. I think I want to share this honor together with the Korean AKU delegate. We have 40 AKU delegates together in this room. I want to recognize their effort for the Korea unification, in the grassroots level, all around Korea. Please give them a big applause. Thank you. So, just my friend, Reverend Kenneth Bae, shared that importance of civil society, also the importance of faith community. It is very important to realize unification. We talk a lot about policies and how we are going to approach North Korea. A lot of academic discussion was made for the Korea unification. But we should not miss the very point, that is importance of civil society, means Korean people. Even though all the geopolitical situations changed, everything is favorable for the Korea unification. If Korean people do not want unification, that can be done. But honestly speaking, nowadays, my homeland, South Korea, people in South Korea, are they yearning for unification? How about future generation of South Korea? Young people are interested in unification? I cannot confidently say yes, no. The situation in South Korea this day, they worry about North Korea, but people are not really want the unification. So what I want to share about few points about importance of action for Korea United. This is totally new approach for the Korea unification. I think today that Dr. Moon shared in his great keynote speech. He shared about action for Korea United. So actually he reduced my job today. So this is really the new approach. Out of box thinking, we started this, the campaign in Korea. This unification movement should not be top down. It should be bottom up. We have to engage with the Korean public for the unification. But thing is, up to now, in the Korean society, we talk about the unification. There is no room for the public, general public can engage for the Korea unification. So Action for Korea United came with that vision. We have to bring all Koreans to contribute for the Korea unification. So there is one question then. How we are going to engage the Koreans, general public? How we can make them work for the Korea unification and contribute for the Korea unification? Most critical issue is, where is the vision for Korea unification? Right? How can you move and aspire, inspire the people? The question, all this question is, ended up with a vision. So today we shared a lot about the importance of vision. We visited the Lincoln Cottage, how the America could unite in the most difficult time in American history. The vision is the most important thing. But where is the vision for Korea unification? Is there any consensus in Korea? So Dr. Hyunjin Moon came up with a vision, Korean Dream, which is actually the vision for the Action for Korea United. We want to inspire the Korean people, no matter who they are, what kind of religion they believe, what kind of cultural background they have, or political ideology they have. We want to work together under this vision. And we last 5 years of experience, very short time, right? AK was founded 2012, only 5 years. But we testify that vision can make people and make people to participate, and also inspire the people to work together beyond the different ideologies and different religions. So that is outcome of AKU this day, also the clear, really forensic evidence that the movement of AKU initiative is succeeding is here. My fellow AKU members are sitting in this room. They are working hard in the local level, actually to create a grassroots movement for Korea unification. That's now succeeding. So Dr. Moon shared about today, even Dr. Ryu said about one of our campaign, using the cultural platform to inspire the young people. You know, sometimes just giving lectures or like a politician's rhetoric, political rhetoric, looks like I have a lot of power to move people. But thing is, it's not. To move the general public, mass majority of Koreans, we have to use the culture. So 2015, we came up with the idea that we celebrate the 70th years of anniversary of independence. So let's create one new unification song. So that idea was a very simple idea in the beginning, but we actually set the process to accomplish this goal. It's not just creating the song. We have to create organizing committee, working together with a conservative and liberal to propel this campaign. We succeeded actually. We're very proud about that because at that time we brought 1,100 NGOs together. Also, both Conservative Party and Liberal Party together, and the government together. Also, it was fully supported by the corporate. So it was a very successful event in 2015 in Seoul. Actually, the song was actually capturing the vision for Korea unification. It was really loved by the young people in Korea. Now, in the next year, the Ministry of Korea in Korea, the middle school music textbook, they are going to have the song we created in 2015. So also the importance is the AKU believe is not only domestic movement is important. Of course, we have to come up with we have to bring the people power to move forward this unification. But thing is, Korea division is outcome of geopolitical conflict, international geopolitical conflict. Without bring the consensus and support from the global community, we cannot accomplish our vision of the unification. So we came up with the One Korea global campaign. Already the Dr. Moon shared in his speech. So it's ongoing right now, not by the government, by the people, by the civil society, which is, I think, the first thing happening in Korean history. I think it's just the start. What I'm proud about that is just we started. So year 2018 is coming, 2019 is coming. We are going to celebrate that centennial of March 1st movement, 3.1 movement in Seoul. As the Dr. Moon said today, 3.1 movement was led by the people of Korea, even though under Japanese rule, very difficult time. They have put their neck out on the line. They have to sacrifice. They had to sacrifice their life at the time. But these days, all the circumstances is to our side. So we have to utilize that. So Korean people should own their destiny and fulfill this mission that we have, the unification, by our own hand. That's our commitment. That's the AKU's commitment for the unification. Thank you.
It's typical, as in most conferences like this, we are behind time. but we'll honor the promise of giving you the time to ask questions. Do you have questions? Okay, would you please come forward? We don't have a floor microphone. While she's walking to the podium, I have a few questions too. To Dr. Ijuin, the two questions quickly. One is you talked about the economic cooperation between North Korea and Japan, and to the benefit of both. Some summary picture of how that cooperation might take place. And second, Japan and Korea has some very bad blood between them in history. And to restore the good neighborliness between the two again, I'd like to ask Japan to come forward proactively, not passively sitting by, actively for Korean unification. When Korea is united, with Japan's help, then I think Koreans will forget and forgive all bad blood between them in the past. And Dr. Zebin, you spoke about Vladimir Putin's position that Russia will not really have an active involvement interest in Korean Peninsula, but that Russia will not stand by if it falls under some hostile powers such as the United States, correct? Now, that is kind of passive. Does Russia have any proactive, positive policy or policy suggestions for united Korea? Dr. Zhao, I don't know we'll have time for this, but your presentation has been largely descriptive. What has been happening, don't you think it's about time that we become more future-oriented direction? Because China is a big country. Korea is small, it's sitting next to each other. In the long run, when China and Korea are in good relationship, that's fine, but Korea, small power, must be prepared in time when China becomes too domineering. We need the United States in case China becomes hostile. When China becomes hostile to united Korea, where would Korea go if not the United States? And I'll have other questions, but the time doesn't allow. And there was a questioner here. Would you please? Anybody else with questions, please come forward now.
I'm not sure if you have time for answers, but my question is, in order to have a dialogue, you need to have a willing partner. So who are the likely partners in North Korea? Who are the civil society actors who might support such a dialogue? And what would be the incentives for the Kim Jong-un government to participate in dialogue?
Excellent question. Your question is directed to Dr. Anybody, everybody. Okay. Please.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Shim. I'm a reporter for UPI. My question is for Professor Zhao regarding the recent, unofficial THAAD sanctions from China-led sanctions against South Korea for the deployment of THAAD. Those tensions recently ended, and I'd like your take on what resolved the situation. Thank you.
One more question, and that will be the last. In the meantime, while the questioner comes forward, would Dr. Ijuin say something in response to the questions thus far? Just stand by to save time. Just stay.
Okay? Okay?
Yes.
Yes. At first, I was talking about the economic cooperation with North Korea. And North Korea holds abundant mineral resources, including coal, iron ore, and rare earths. The normalization of diplomatic relations with North Korea and economic assistance continue to constitute a new opportunity for business and the resource industry. North Korea also has an industrious and highly educated workforce. For industry in Japan, where the aging of the population coupled with the declining birth rate is causing an escalating labor shortage. North Korea would be an attractive partner with its inexpensive army of high caliber workers. And moreover, North Korea is located in the attractive position for international trade and logistics. North Korea is connected overland to China and Russia to the west and north, so it could be used as an international trade and logistic gateway. So there are many potential, but before normalization of the diplomatic relation, WMD problem and abduction issue must be solved.
Before we turn to Dr. Zibin, there's a last questioner standing by.
How do you do, gentlemen? Clarence Williamson, just a long-time student of Korea. My question is directed to Mr. Inteck, Seoul Inteck, and we've heard many of the talk about the precious civil society. And that leads me to, the whole conference is conducted in English. And in Korean, the Korean people are the ones who need to know about the civil society. So I think it's Shimin Sahe. And if anyone who's been in Korea, they seldom hear Shimin Sahe. They may hear Gumin, Jumin, Pyeongmin, Simin. All of them are sort of interrelated. If you're going to rely on the citizen spirit of civil society, those Koreans need to be civil and know what civil society is. Would you just say maybe a minute or two about that?
Thank you, Dr. Zibin.
Oh. This one.
Doesn't work? Use this one.
Okay. Which one? Okay, thank you. Russian positive agenda for Korea is, first of all, to make both Korean states to transit to the peaceful coexistence stage. North Koreans and South Koreans should finally live peacefully and implement those agreements which were reached between them, starting from the joint statement of 1972, basic agreement in 1992, two declarations achieved as a result of two inter-Korean summits. There are a lot of good agreements between North and South Korea. It's high time for Koreans start to implement at least part of them. And it seems to me that very important not start to abandon this thinking about immediate collapse of North Korea. 18 years ago, the former Defense Secretary of United States, William Perry, prepared a famous report, now almost forgotten, about the United States policy towards North Korea. There was a very wise advice from former Defense Secretary of the United States of America. Though North Korea will finally change, there is no signs that it will happen in the near future. So United States government should deal with North Korea as it is, not as we wish it would be, we would like it to be. So I think that we should be realists and try to transit current stage of inter-Korean relations to the peaceful coexistence, to cooperation, reconciliation, that will be a real stage of preparation for unification. Without that, unification can be kind of a forceful event which will bring no good neither to the North nor to the South.
Thank you, Dr. Zibin. Dr. Zhao.
The question, one about China dominant, and the other about THAAD, China's reaction about THAAD. I guess the two questions can be combined together. In terms of THAAD issue, if we really look at the development, I guess there are two elements involved. One is mutual perception. That is because from Chinese perspective, the issue of THAAD is a threaten its own security. So that's the issue. And then the who goes first, who goes second, and then China has a certain retaliation. But now the issue almost in the turning point. We understand that President Moon just met with Xi Jinping first, and then met with Prime Minister Li Keqiang. And they all emphasize possible state visit and to put the page over. But more importantly is the second issue, that is mutual trust. I don't think the mutual trust is already there, so that's really need time for the two countries to establish that mutual trust relations. If you look at current Korean Peninsula, there are no single Chinese soldier stationed there. So I'm not sure when you ask the question that is a dominant position, I don't think that's, today's China is very different from imperial, early China.
Thank you, Dr.
So there are a lot of different situations. Thank you.
Okay. And if after Mr. Saw respond to the question, if time permits, I have a question for Reverend Bae.
Yeah, thank you for giving me a question. The civil society means that dictionary meaning is not a state, right? The space that people can do the social activities without interference of the state. That's the civil society meaning. But I'm not in the position to define this, what it means. But thing is, in Korea, like civil society is, people are civil activities saying that concept was born after 1987, that democratization movement was succeeded. The civil society was born. Kind of civil society is quite new in Korea. But anyway, whether there was a civil society or not, the concept is very accurate or not. Thing is, Korean people are very good at that, to come together for the social issue. Likewise, recent political changes by the candlelight demonstration, which is actually by the people power that we changed the government. Also, not only that 1987, also the democratization movement, we took out all the military dictatorship by the people power. And also the 1960 April 19 movement was led by the people, ordinary people. That was the also success of the political transformation also happened at the time. So I can go on and on. But thing is, in Korean DNA, we have a certain gene that we can actually, mobilize this kind of movement very well. That's all I can say. Thank you.
We were given up to 5:30. Now it's 5:40. I'm afraid the time is up. And thank you for the interesting presentations. And we have Elizabeth Elliott with an announcement.
Hi, thank you. I just have a brief announcement on behalf of Global Peace Foundation, Action for Korea United, East West Institute, and One Korea Foundation. Thank you so much for joining us today on opening day of our International Forum on One Korea. Please join us tomorrow. We will be meeting at the Pavilion at the Ronald Reagan International Trade Center. Even more importantly, I know we're all cold and hungry, so we have refreshments here sponsored by East West Institute. Please stay with us for this networking reception, and thank you all again.